Hello, this is Pack Your Bags with Tui, and I'm Russell Kane, the podcast where we dig through celebrity suitcases one item at a time. Each episode, I'm joined by some of the biggest names from the world of sport, food, entertainment, and more. They're going to share their 3 must-pack travel items, from oddball keepsakes to brilliant travel hacks. Each item offers a glimpse into how they view the world, whether they're living the high life in 5-star comfort or surviving on a campsite. Mostly it's the first one, I'm not going to lie. It's not just about unpacking our guests' luggage. Okay, maybe there's going to be a bit of emotional baggage too. We're also sorting out your travel dilemmas. Listeners have sent dilemmas in, and we have a go at solving them with the help of my guest. And to polish it all off, we end with a quick fire round that really puts them in the hot seat. So there's only one thing left to do. Enjoy the episode. What can I say? I'm joined by relationship science expert, co-host of Married at First Sight UK, author and podcaster, Paul C. Brunson. Paul, welcome.
Woo, yeah,
Paul is here to guide us through travel and well-being. And as a relationship expert, we're going to get to the nitty-gritty of traveling as a new couple, as a long-term couple, holiday romances. I'm interested in all of that. But also well-being as a single and solo traveler. Or, if I was American, I might say relationship to self.
LA.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. And Paul, of course, has brought his 3 must-pack items along to show me. But before we get into that, each episode we've been having a bit of a travel dilemma sent in by a listener, submitted. And of course, our guests, we're not going to say you're experts in these subjects per se, but we love to get a bit of advice on the travel dilemmas.
Okay.
Are you ready to hear the dilemma?
I'm ready.
We've got a trip planned to Mykonos with another couple. They've been taking control of the plan, saying we should do this, we should do that. And I think they mean well. How do we say we'd rather not do some of their suggestions without offending them?
You say, we'd rather not do some of these suggestions, and I don't want to offend you. You know what I mean? I think that the challenge with conflict is that we oftentimes shy away from conflict. Mm-hmm. But conflict is actually good. Just like stress is good, right? Conflict is good. But the issue is that we're not transparent in how we feel. As long as you're transparent about how you feel, you let them know that, hey, I'm not trying to be offensive. We still want to participate, right? But you're being a little too much right here. That is fair. I think honesty is a great policy when it comes to conflict resolution.
It's really hard for British people to do that.
This is what I find to be the case.
Sober.
Yeah. This is what was one of my things is when I got here, because I'm from New York, and we're very...
I'm walking here.
Exactly. This is my road. This is it, right? This is it. And I think we're very blunt, but I do appreciate that. And I think that there is something that we can take away from being transparent in our thoughts.
Well, I've got a dilemma for you, actually. Bathroom usage on that first romantic trip away. If you get the frosted glass with the hinting silhouette, what's the best way to tackle that?
This is what I think, is that if I could go back and tell my younger self this, I would say to be transparent about...
Not with the glass.
No, not with the glass, but about how I feel and about how nervous I am, or about how nervous, or are you nervous? Asking the question, because that's vulnerability. What we have to understand is that the more vulnerable we are, the more we connect with our partner. There's an emotional connection that happens. And it's through that emotional connection that everything in our life becomes better. The issue is when we dance around it, we go down to the lobby instead, right? And we end up not confronting the issues in our life. So if you can't talk about the bathroom, then how are you going to talk about the real stuff that happens in your relationship? So if I could go back and give myself some coaching, right? When I was a younger man, I would say, Paul, be transparent about the fact that you are nervous about this.
Paul, let's delve in to your items. What do you have first?
Okay, so can I give a small story around this?
Of course.
This was one of the most difficult tasks I've had in my life because I typically bring nothing. I travel as light as humanly possible.
So you're a hand luggage only whenever possible?
Sometimes not even hand luggage. Passport, credit card, that's it.
What are you reading on the plane?
It's on my phone.
This is probably why we get on, because we're so opposite. I'm like the overpacker. At school, I was actually victimized for having the largest school bag. And then my party piece was to get inside my own school bag while my friends carried me around.
My God. And you could actually get into it.
I could get into it. It was a bag with head written on it. I won't tell you what people used to write above the word head in chalk. But yeah, so I'm famously an overpacker. Like even today, for today's record, I've got the outfit I'm going to wear, my spare outfit in case someone didn't like it in the studio. Yeah, I'm an overpacker.
So this was difficult because I was thinking, I don't bring anything. I don't. So this happens to be the three things that I do bring,
Okay.
right? So I do bring. So I
Number
will pull. Number one is this is a personalized travel size.
Cologne.
It's cologne because, I like to smell good.
Yeah.
Russ, I like to,
You're someone who looks like you smell good. Do you know what I mean? Like people would look at me and go, he might smell of bins or he might smell good.
And actually, my wife gave this to me years ago. It has my initials on it, PCB. And I literally, I think I might be an over squirter of cologne. I feel like I'm constantly putting it on.
Yeah.
And what's terrible is that, you desensitize yourself to the smell of the cologne. So I never know if I have too much on or what the issue is. Yeah. But I bring this everywhere with me.
Because I'm like that. I always have 2 colognes on me. I'm always covered in it. I'm probably stinking out the studio half the time. Everyone's too polite to tell me. Do you think there's something going on there, or do we just like smelling good?
No, it's definitely psychological. When I was little, my mother would tell me 2 things. Make sure that your shoes are, they're shined and they look good, right? That's very important. And then make sure you don't stink.
Good advice, really.
She was like, just do those 2 things and you will get far in life. And I think that just stuck with me. I was the 10-year-old taking showers. My 14-year-old it's like, yeah, you have to bribe him to take it. But at 10, I was just like in there, so I know it stems from that.
Right. So there's so much pressure on a holiday these days, right, to make or break a relationship. Do you believe that a holiday or a time away is a test of a relationship? Should it be? Is it really a make or break? Particularly that first holiday. There's 2 types of holiday. The first one you take together and the one you might take when you had a bit of a tough time and you're trying to refire the engines.
Yes. I think they're incredibly important. The first one, namely. And the reason why is because it's typically going to be the first time that you have to navigate a space together, but only the 2 of you, or you could be in a polyamorous relationship, but typically it's going to be the 2 of you navigating these challenges together for the first time. And you're talking about, intimate things like the bathroom. How are we going to do that? How are we going to handle the money situation, right? Also, how are we going to handle personal time? You know how challenging it is to go on a holiday and know that you need personal time and then have your partner say, we're supposed to be together 24/7. What are you doing? Yeah. You can't leave. You're going to the gym? What? You doing? You're going to take a walk by yourself? And
is everything okay? That might panic them that you're in a mood with them or something.
Exactly. So to navigate all of these issues, it's almost like a microcosm of your life, all happening within 3 days, 5 days, etc.
Is there a timeline, do you think, where a couple should take the plunge and go away together for the first time? Is it dependent on the age of the couple? Is a couple in their 20s likely to go away a bit more earlier than 2 people who started dating in their 40s? Or
I think the only question is do you trust the person that's with you? Like, do you feel safe with them? And that could take place in 6 months. That could take place in 6 years. It could take place. So the real question is do I feel safe with this person and can I trust this person? Because if the answer to either of those 2 is no, never go away with that person.
And what can you do to feel more in sync or to prepare to be a better fellow traveler, or should you not do that? Should you just be yourself and communicate?
You should communicate, be yourself. But I think the planning of it, right? Because there's different types of holidays. For example, my wife loves a beach, relax, pina coladas situation.
Sounds great.
I like the nerdiest stuff. I like history. At minimum, I take 2 tours. And so we have to navigate. How do we even decide where to go? But that navigation happens before we go. So I think it is important to spend time and identify the appropriate holiday, negotiate that.
So you and your wife have different holiday styles. How do you navigate that when you're away?
The key is how you navigate any relationship, right? There's compromise and there's sacrifice. How do we spend time at the beach? Because she's a beach lover. How do we spend time at the museum? But then there's also sacrifice. Maybe there's just not enough time in the day to do both. So who is going to sacrifice? And ultimately, it's me. Sacrifices.
Is a good first holiday for a couple a shorter break, shorter flight, rather than going, let's just do 21 nights Barbados first holiday? Or does it not make any difference? Is it dependent on the couple? Or
yeah, I mean, this is a good question. I think on average, you probably shouldn't go long. You want to go as short as possible, but it depends on how safe and how comfortable you are. There are people who truly are their partner's best friend. So like Russell, everything I know about you, you and your partner, you two are besties.
Yeah, totally.
You're besties.
Last night we were voice noting till midnight, like sending 5-minute voice notes to each other. I'd only been away 4 hours.
See, there you go. It's like, so I could see that in a relationship, even when you form that relationship early, that you guys could have gone, 20 days, right, on a wherever. So, and then also depends on the personality. So there's a lot that you have to take into play. But ultimately, I think it goes back to that safety.
Is there an equation for the perfect holiday partner setup? What I mean by that is it better if you identify roles beforehand? So I know I'm a planner. I'll work hard on, hey, I'm going to be really spontaneous today. But ultimately, I'm on TripAdvisor. I know what all the restaurants are. That's me. And Lindsay's more like the go with the flow. Are we doing that? Okay, man, I'm happy. So we identify those roles and we go with that. Is it positive to have those conversations, or does it close down the romance of discovering who each other is?
Oh man, this is why I think holidays are a microcosm on our life, and why they are so important for couples, especially early on, is because absolutely, in your relationship, you take different roles. And because of that, it's like 1 + 1 = more than 2. And you are filling in the void where your partner may be weak. They're filling in the void where you may be weak.
So if you're a longer term couple and we go to our 5-star all-inclusive every year, you probably stopped learning as much about each other. What should they change?
The key around desire, right?
Hello.
Which is what couples typically lose as they get older, is novelty. If you are just going to the 5-star hotel and you go down to the pool and then at 3 p.m. you do whatever, right? You need to flip it up. You need to switch it up. And I would say that what you should do is take baby steps. So maybe that's, you're going to a 5-star hotel, but you're doing it in a different city. You're going to Tanzania, right? Instead of, a different country, So think about moving location. But the key is novelty. So the key is changing the routine, changing the pattern.
That was my personal therapy session there. Thank you. Deliver your invoice later. What's item number 2?
Item number 2. All right, let's see. Item number 2. This is what everyone needs to travel with. This is what you call advanced hand sanitizer. But the reason why I say this is because I am also, you could probably guess, I am somewhat germaphobe. So I spray everything down with hand sanitizer. I'm on the plane.
That's bacteria. You don't mind Germany.
Oh, yeah. No, Germany's cool.
Because Germany's a great country to explore.
It's cool. Although I've had some wild times in Germany. But yeah, I spray it all down. Bacteria is not a good thing.
Right.
And what I've noticed is that when you're out and about, especially when I like to travel, because, you're going to these historical places, there's nowhere to wash your hands.
You're like a character from a James Bond book, just like cologne, hand sanitizer. If the next thing that comes out is a martini, I'm contacting the Broccolis. I think we found our James Bond. You're a great James Bond. Can you act?
Oh my gosh. No, I wish I could.
I've got a live issue for you, real issue from me. Once you have children, kids are the focus of the holiday, quite rightly. It's some of the most joyous things between 0, 5 and 6, playing with your kids in the pool and all that. But once the kids get to, and I've realized it starts a lot younger than I was anticipating with my daughter at 9 or 10, where she seems to be bored by my existence already. But the guilt in my heart of me and Lindsay going away for 5, 6 or 7 nights without her, it's like I'm being ripped in two. So we're ending up not doing things despite ourselves. So I've got my mum in place who will take my daughter for 7 nights if you want. My daughter will happily stay at my mum's for 7 nights. There'll be other couples like us where their marriage is suffering because one or the other, in my relationship, it's the man, me, feels unable to leave the child for a long period of time.
Right. My kids right now are 11, 14. We've traveled extensively with them. And we were in that early stage where we were debating, do we bring them or not? What we lean towards is, okay, let's just reimagine how we take holidays. Right. So the best example I can give is we would always plot everything. We would plan it out like I was planning it all. And we said, you know what? Let's empower our boys to design it all. So literally one day, this is one of my favorite holidays, is my son, who at that time is probably 9 years old. He said, he was like, Dad, that guy that I was just talking to, he sounds like Dracula. And I said, oh, okay, well, why don't you ask the gentleman where he's from? So my son goes back over there. He says he's from Romania. And I said, Liam, do you know where Romania is? He said, no, I have no idea where Romania is. So pull out my phone, right? I said, okay, here's the map. This is where Romania is. And I said, would you like to go there? He said, I would love to go to Romania. And so we then, start looking at YouTube videos, et cetera. And I said, Liam, you tell us what you would like to see in Romania. And he was like, I want to learn about Vlad Tepes, right? I want to go visit his castle. And so he's getting excited about this thing. So he's basically plotted this entire holiday. We then fly to Romania. He is enthralled with what's happening. He's in love with what's going on. He's completely plugged in. It was his holiday.
Yeah.
It was his holiday.
Brilliant suggestion.
Empowering them, it was the best thing that we've ever done. And sometimes they don't get the whole holiday, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they get a portion of it.
Yeah.
But just empowering them has been key.
It puts me in mind about the book that I read a book last year, maybe the year before that. It literally changed my life. You probably know it. Maybe, I don't know if you do from the way you're speaking. It's called Positive Discipline by Jane Nelson.
Oh, but no.
And it's all about when you have an issue, say they're watching too much iPad, for example, instead of going, this is why it's bad, look at the science, you sit down as a family and go, right, these are the consequences. What's your suggestions of how to solve it? And they very often come up with things that you would have come up with anyway, but because the architect of the decision,
yes,
everyone wins.
Everyone wins. We use this in galleries, right? So at now 11 and 14, my boys love going to art galleries. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
At 11, your son? Yeah. You know why? Because what we flipped it is we said, okay, look, every time we go to a gallery, we have a photo taking competition. Who could take the best photo? So we all go out, we take photos, right? Whenever we're in a gallery, and then we select our 3 favorite photos. We then send it to our cousin, and our cousin will say, okay, I think this photo is the best. Oh, it was Liam's photo. Yeah. And Liam's like, oh my gosh, I have the best photo, right? And now not only do you have a visual documentation of the trip, but you have reprogrammed his mind to be excited, to look forward, to lean in to these art galleries.
I can't be the only one that has a career like this, where we have to travel for work. So that our marriage continues to be wonderful, we often move as a family and turn that into a working holiday. So, for example, I plan to go to Canada later in the year, which is a brilliant travel destination, loads to do, Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary, wherever. So I have to go to Canada, and my daughters put the brakes on. I don't want to go. What's the balance there? Should we be more like they were in the old days and go, well, she's with her grandma, she's happy, it's important for the couple to go and explore? Or should I be more like I was raised and make sacrifices, and Lindsay comes for 2 days and stays with Bibby and all that? I'm really confused and conflicted. I cannot be the only one.
We're experiencing the same challenges in life. So one of the most profound moments in my life that changed everything, and I think this is ultimately where that answer is for you, is that my first television project, and this is not a name drop, but this was a huge blessing, is my first TV project was in Georgia in the United States with none other than Oprah Winfrey.
Wow.
But to film this project, I had to go away for the equivalent of a month and a half. We had just had our first child. I'm going to the airport. I'm crying. I'm thinking I'm leaving my son. These are not the values I wanted to encourage in the household. I go away for the entire time. At the very end, my wife and I looked at each other and said, we'll never do this again. I feel like I deserted her. It was terrible. So we committed that we would never leave each other for more than 15 days. So if there was a project that I was doing or she was doing that was over 15 days, we would go together.
Right.
As a result of that, we homeschooled our boys for the first 6-7 years of their life. That's actually what allowed us to come here to the UK, because we were homeschooling. So we could come here it was a 3-month project, my first project here. So it was about my wife and I sitting down and saying, these are the values that we want our family to embody. We're their parents. We dictate the values early on. So ultimately, I think it is about you and your wife deciding what are the values you want your family to have.
So I suppose in my dilemma, it's compromise, isn't it? Lindsay could join me for like 5 or 6. I'm only there for 9 nights total. So the Brunson 15-night rule, which I will now literally live my life by. Holiday romances. I don't want to linger too long here, but, are they a good thing? Is it like a false beginning to a relationship, a holiday romance?
I tell you what, I love them. The reason why I love them is because there is something in psychology called the premium effect. And what that states is that when you are in an area where there are very few people like you, so it could be because of your ethnicity, nationality, gender, whatever it may be, as a result, those who are open-minded will place a premium on you. But those who are closed-minded will say, what is he doing here? right? So if Russell, I brought you to where I'm from, Queens, New York.
Yeah.
And I just dropped you at the bodega, right? The corner shop, and you go in to order whatever. The moment you open your mouth, they're going to be like,
I'm going to be covered in Queens by 6 p.m. And I don't mean the district.
They will embrace, they'll be like, oh my gosh. And you sing the same sentence that I'm saying. To them, it's a melody. It's poetic. It's right. So they place a premium because you're not from that particular area.
So there's two strands to this. Is holiday romance with someone that's there because there's a premium that you're sort of exotic, as it were. And I've got to admit, I do ham it up in the, can I have a cup of tea? I appear to have spilt my original cup. Oh my God, it's so cute. But there's also the romance with a fellow Brit. You might. So is there a similar premium put on a fellow Brit? If I see a British girl and I was single on holiday, I might be attracted to her because we're both sort of Brits abroad.
Yes. Right. But the reason for that is just because of the similarities. What we technically want in a partner, like we want us, that's ultimately who we're after. We're after someone with the same level of education. We're after someone with the same social status. Values, right? Class, which that in itself is a whole story. But we're typically after us. So if you find you in an area where there's no one like you, yes, you will be more endeared to that person. And then lastly, in terms of these romantic holidays, is there's another law called the law of proximity, or it's the law of propinquity, which just means that the longer you're with someone, the more you feel connected to that person. This is why if you took any two people, you drop them on a stranded island, they will be quote unquote in love, right? In a certain amount of time. And so that's another reason why these holiday romances end up doing quite well. What
role would you say travel has played in your own relationship then?
It's one of our values as a family. And I appreciate my mother and father for placing that value in our life so early on. And it was interesting because when I married my wife, she hadn't traveled abroad, right? So it was me bringing that value in, her embracing that value. We travel multiple times a year. I was going to say multiple times a month sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And has there been any times where you've been traveling and something's not gone right or it's gone awry and it's tested you or you've adapted in a positive way?
Going back to the Romania trip, we were in this very small village outside of Bucharest and we're walking down the street and a group comes up and starts touching my son's hair. But what's interesting is it then created a dialogue around the fact that this group had never seen anyone Black in person. But that then created a question around personal boundaries. You know, do you have the right just to walk up to my son and touch his hair, right? Even though there's intrigue. But then that created another dialogue around culture because I learned that in this group, it was actually an endearing move to touch someone's hair.
Of course, yeah, because every culture has a different boundary of personal contact.
Yeah. So look, in that one space, in those few moments, look at how much we learned about each other and how much ignorance was reduced as a result of that interaction.
Yeah. What would be your dream holiday with the family? And is it different to your dream holiday with the partners? You can push two buttons. They're both going to happen this year. One's a dream holiday with the family. One's a dream holiday with partner.
All right. They're the same holiday. So I've never been to Japan and I want to go into a deep dive on the history of samurai culture. My boys, so they love Pokemon. So for them, that's why they would want to go. And my wife, she wants to go ski. There's great skiing in Japan.
I did not know there's skiing in Japan.
There's skiing.
You could ski on your swords after you've learned about them.
With Pokemon cards.
that would be a badass Marvel superhero skiing on swords that you then flip up at the last minute.
Oh, man. But that's top of the list right now.
Right. Third item.
The third item was the hardest. This truly is my third item. And this is important. So, yeah, can we play a guessing game? What do you think this is? I use this item.
I'm going to pray for deodorant.
I have the cologne.
Okay, fair enough.
All right, so I use this item every day.
Razor? Oh, no, you can't travel with you can travel with a safety razor.
Okay. You're close. This is my titanium trimmer. Rechargeable. I could charge this bad boy up. It lasts for a week.
Right.
I can cut
I'm just about ready to buy one. If you stick a payment link, it's because your accent. I'm giving you the titanium trimmer for just $99.99.
Yeah, this has been so so incredible. So I carry this around.
So that's to keep the head fresh and the beard.
Head fresh, beard. Yeah, every day. There you go.
Man, you are a man of simple needs. I'm extremely jealous. I've got like my night moisturizer, my day moisturizer, my serums and all this stuff.
I mean, I like that stuff, but it's like at minimum, if I need to go, it's just that passport, I'm good.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about just traveling and a sense of self while single. People might be surprised I want to ask you about this, but I think sometimes the foundation course for a good relationship is falling in love with yourself first. And in fact, some of my relationships I've had that have not worked out have been with women that hadn't quite got to the end of the journey of like loving themselves enough, and it sort of interfered with the relationship we tried to build together. And probably before I discovered who I was, I had that problem too. So how can we use travel to help build a sense of self and to fall in love with ourselves? It sounds narcissistic and a bit other side of the Atlantic, but I think even Brits are realizing if you don't like yourself, you're screwed.
Can we talk about why? Because I think what I love about the UK when I moved here is that it's like, okay, I hear what you're saying, but tell me why. Like, help me to understand, right? So if I think about self-love is connected to self-esteem, and self-esteem is connected to self-worth. And if you're thinking about a tree, for example, the roots of the tree is self-worth. This is where I should be. I'm planted. This is it. You have self-worth. The self-esteem is like the trunk of the tree, right? And self-esteem is saying, I don't need anyone else's validation. I don't need external validation, that is. And then self-love is like the leaves of the tree. Right. So that is catching, the rain, capturing the sunlight, and that nutrients allows the trunk to be strong and the roots to be strong and grow. So in other words, your self-love allows you to have self-esteem so you don't have to need external validation. Your strong self-esteem allows you to have self-worth so you know that just being here, this is my place, I'm worthy. So self-love is incredibly important. You can't have any of that without self-love.
So how can we get more sunlight and rain?
So how you get it is that you have to identify your values and feed them. So for me, for example, a huge value around my value is I love creativity. My friends in the US call this a flex, but in the UK, you realize this is not a flex, is I will travel to Paris, right, by myself to go to the Louvre. That's a self-love day for me. I'll go have lunch. I'll go to the Louvre. I'll go have a couple glasses of wine. I get a crepe.
I'm already planning my trip. I'm so easily influenced.
Oh my God. For a day? You deserve that.
Yeah.
We deserve that. That's self-love. That's me tapping into creativity, filling myself up. That's the sunlight coming into my leaves. So that's the reason why when I get back, I have stronger self-esteem or stronger self-worth because I'm feeding my values. So ultimately, we all must do this. Now, maybe going to Paris, going to the Louvre is not your thing. But whatever your values are, you have to feed them because without it, I guarantee you will have lower self-esteem and you'll have lower self-worth.
If you're single, can traveling alone really help with, I don't want to diagnose single as a situation, but a lot of people who are single would rather be in a couple, not all, but those that would. How can traveling help you move on from being single to being in a relationship apart from the obvious way of meeting someone?
Because if you think about your values can be tapped anywhere around the world. And that premium effect that I talked about earlier is you get that same premium. So for example, I could go look at photos of in the Louvre or statues or whatever it may be, or I can get a crepe in London if I wanted to, but going to Paris to buy a crepe, that's a whole nother experience. And there's a premium that I place psychologically that I place on that. So there's almost greater self-love that I'm giving myself.
You radiate more attraction, if you like. So you're more likely to meet someone because you've given yourself that nurturing self-love?
Well, you're more likely to just love yourself.
Yeah.
To even give a more concrete example why self-esteem and self-love is so important is because the number one reason for breakups or for divorce, people say it's arguments, people say it's finance. No, you know what it is? You selected the wrong partner or you allowed the wrong partner to select you. Now, let's examine why you selected the wrong partner or you allowed the wrong partner to select you. Well, I guarantee you one of the reasons is because you had low self-esteem or low self-worth. Because someone with high self-esteem and high self-worth, their boundaries are way up high. And they won't just let any ordinary person into their lives. That shows you why self-love is so important.
One last question, then we're going to hit you with a quick fire.
Okay.
How can we be a more considerate travel partner to friends and family? I don't think it's an issue for you and I, but people that aren't necessarily thinking in the round about the people they're traveling with.
I would say the pregame is so key. right? And I could see that we both do this. And that is that we spend time investigating and making sure that, okay, we're going to pick a restaurant. Everyone will love this particular restaurant, or we're going to pick this hotel because we know that it has this particular thing in the hotel, right? So I think spending time with your friends and family ahead of time, finding out what are they concerned about? What are they challenged with? You know, the best things I think I've ever been able to do in life is I brought my wife's family to Jamaica. It was their first time in Jamaica. Now, my mother-in-law is in a wheelchair. She's wheelchair bound. And in Jamaica, there's something called Dunn's River Falls that is very famous, and people climb up Dunn's
I've only
River
ever
Falls.
seen it on the nourishment drinks and things. Dunn's River is a brand here. It's a Caribbean food brand here.
So it is an area in Jamaica with a very famous falls, waterfall, where you climb up it. So you go to Jamaica, you climb up this fall. It's incredible. It's one of the most beautiful experiences that you can have. But now I knew I was going to bring my family there, but I also knew my mother-in-law is in a wheelchair. So she would not be able to climb up this thing. So me being considerate ahead of time, I talked to them. I said, look, if we can hire some extra people, actually pick her up out of her chair, walk her over to the falls so that she could dip her feet into the falls, right? Yeah. And just have that experience. That's me being considerate towards her and understanding how she would feel seeing everyone else in the falls and not being able to do it. So that's how we could become better travel partners, is spending time knowing the desires, knowing the challenges that our friends and family will have, and then figuring out how can we do our best to accommodate that.
Honestly, such a brilliant chat, Paul. Thank you so much.
I loved it.
I still have to punish you with a quick fire.
Oh no! I thought we're friends.
Yeah. So these are these which you and I are going to struggle on. Quick answers to the main challenge of the day. Apart from me, obviously, your dream celeb travel partner,
David Attenborough.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, who wouldn't want to go
Good choice.
On safari with him? He could just narrate it.
Yeah. Even get to the airport. His tiny pouch. Inside is his cologne, which he will spray to ensure his female is attracted.
God, I would love that. Yeah, he could just narrate the whole thing for me as I'm walking. You know?
His head freshly shaved with his titanium razor. His female looks across it. First thing on your plate at the buffet.
Oh, just something high protein.
Biggest travel ick.
Odor.
Yeah. Most romantic destination.
Oh, I mean, Paris, for sure.
Now, this is a really divisive question. Thoughts on clapping when the plane lands?
I know this is going to feel like an hour, but this is quick.
Okay.
I'll try to make it as quick as possible. So I'm from the way back in the day travel where the clapping was only done when you went abroad.
Yeah.
Right. That was the only clapping. So clapping abroad, I'm okay with. But then when I got to the UK, I realized that abroad is like 30 minutes.
It literally is if you go to Wales.
Right. So I am with clapping abroad if it is a certain distance. I feel like the distance, I need to have
I'd like to see the graph. 6.25 hours.
Yes.
Okay, now that's fair enough. My favourite answer so far in the series was Rob Beckett said, I think it's ridiculous. Why are you clapping for the pilot? It's something he does every day. And I reminded him he was a stand-up comic that requires applause every night. He was like, yeah, good point. Well, we know the answer to this, but answer it anyway. Holiday planner or just turn up?
Oh, yeah. Plan every detail.
Lie in or early riser?
Early.
So you're up at the sunrise.
4:45.
Are you serious?
Every morning, 4:45.
In Ibiza, you wouldn't even be, the headline DJ's just taken to the stage. What would you do? Get up early and enjoy the headline? I've just had my bran flakes. Woo, it's Calvin Harris. Aisle seat or window seat?
Oh, man, window. I like, because I like to lean. I like to lean in if I need a pillow or whatever. Also, I don't like to have to get up for someone.
There's a real divide here between the people that don't want to get up for someone and the people that can't bear to ask someone to move. So I'm on the aisle with just frozen with English fear of bothering anyone about anything.
And I'm the one saying, can you move, please?
Yeah, exactly. What's your go-to holiday drink?
Pina colada.
Mm-hmm. Best city for singletons?
Sweden, I think, has the highest percentage of singles. I think Sweden does.
Is that true?
So I mean,
they're so tall though, aren't they? British men are 5'10".
Yeah, I mean, they build like they go to the Netherlands. It's like
I don't want to flirt upwards.
Yeah. So anywhere in Sweden.
Sweden. Best beach destination?
Oh, Jamaica, hands down.
I've been so much to the Caribbean. I've still not been to Jamaica. It's on the list.
Portland is the most underrated area, I think, in the world. And that is where very few people go. But that's like the exotic, that's where Diplo has his home in Jamaica, Portland, Jamaica.
Okay. Fly and flop or explore? You've already answered this.
Yeah. Explore it. Absolutely.
Favorite holiday activity?
Oh, man. Museums.
And best travel memory?
I'd probably say maybe Jamaica. My family, my wife's family were there.
Yeah, that's a beautiful memory of taking your mother-in-law to the falls and all of that. So maybe that.
I'll never forget it.
Well, what can I say, Paul C. Brunson? Thank you very much. I should probably check if you've got any of your wonderful new books coming out, or what are you up to? Where can we see you next?
I do. I have my second book is out called Keep Love. It's interesting. We talk about holidays.
Really?
And the importance of holidays in keeping your love. So that's out right now. My podcast, We Need to Talk, is one of the top relationship podcasts in all of the world. So I'm very appreciative about that. And then
who do you have on that? It's just expert relationship witnesses, or
the top relationship experts in the world, like the Gottmans, but then also celebrities. We've had Catherine Ryan on. It's a full range.
Anything else coming up on TV to look out?
Married at First Sight UK we're filming it right now. We've got Celebs Go Dating with your buddy, Anna Williamson. Which we're getting ready to start that. And then I have another show that's coming out very soon. That'll be announced. So, but yeah, busy on the TV side.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Pack Your Bags with Tui. If it's your first time listening, we have plenty more episodes for you to dig into with the likes of First Dates, Fred Siriax, comedian Rob Beckett. Why would you applaud every day? And dancer Oti Mabuse, who I've literally raved with in Ibiza, and she did my daughter's hair. Name drop. And for those of you who've been with us all series, thanks for joining us on this journey. It's been a blast. If any of the destinations mentioned in this episode take your fancy, head to tui.co.uk to book your next adventure. Goodbye.